Well, hey, I'm Rebecca Folks, happy homemaker, mom to 4 busy kids, and online entrepreneur. I've spent over a decade in this space working with high-achieving, high-performing women who carry the weight of juggling all the things. After many ups and downs of creating balance between home life, work life, and a million kid activities too, I learned how to slow down to actually accomplish more of the important things. I believe in all the to-doing, there are deep spaces in women's hearts that are sacred to us. Conviction in our identity, hospitality around our tables, and that quiet strength that only comes when we lay our head down at night, confident we're doing a good job where it matters most. Consider this a melting pot of wisdom learned over the years. From homemaking and wellness to influencing and marketing, we're diving into the topics that have created more peace, more joy, and in the end, more margin in my business and my life. Welcome to Wide Open Spaces. Well, welcome back to the podcast today. I have a super fun guest. It's Tricia Regar. She is on Instagram as Clean House with Kids. If that does not sound like goals, I don't even know. But with back to school coming and all the new homework and school supplies and all the things, she talks a lot on her Instagram. Her focus is minimalism and just clutter-free living, which is a lot when she has 7 kids that she homeschools at home. And I love following her. I love learning from her. I feel like sometimes when I hear the word minimalism, I kind of have my hand out like, hey, don't take all my stuff. But in our conversation today, she's kind of define terms between more clutter-free versus minimalism, and then all of the just side effects like peace and quieting anxiety and just ease of life when you're adopting some of these practices and lifestyles. And I think you're going to love our conversation. So listen in for a talk through minimalism and clutter-free living with Tricia Regar. Well, welcome. I am so excited about talking with you, Tricia, because I feel like this is an area, number one, that I'm terrible at. I'm not even sure that I want to be great at it, but I watch all your reels. I watch all of your content, and I'm like, I do find it delightful. And I'm so intrigued by this idea of minimalism. And so I wanted you to come on. I wanted you to talk through how you're a minimalist with 7 kids. So a minimalist in every area, but with your children. And so you have room for all these kiddos. But what made you, I just want to know, like, how did you get into minimalism? There was a before and an after? Like what drew you to minimalism?
Okay, so I would say we were an accidental minimalist family that then turned into an intentional minimalist family.
Okay.
So back in 2014, 2015, we had 4 little kids.
Okay.
And we got to the point that Matt was working and we were barely making ends meet. And then he decided to put all of our savings in, or almost all of ours, it felt like all of our savings, into a property management business that failed. And in the process of it failing, we basically got down to nothing. And so in order to pay the bills, we became minimalists.
So when you say, does that mean just we're not buying anything or we're selling everything? How did you define minimalist at that time?
Like we were selling the paintings off our walls and our side tables and the books off our shelves and our appliances, because like paying the bills and food was obviously more important than a side table.
Sure.
Yeah. But then I feel like we were very, it's hard to say like we were very happy because there was obviously a lot of stress, but we didn't miss the stuff. I think that's what I want to say is we didn't miss the stuff. There was never a time, like one of the biggest questions people ask me is like, oh, but what if like you got rid of something that then you needed? And I'm like, that literally never happened. And if it did, we would borrow it or we would find a way.
So do you remember like ever having a conversation where you're like, this is kind of wild. We've sold all our stuff and oddly, I'm not missing it. Or are you having conversations like that? Or was it later we realized our happiness wasn't in the stuff?
That's what it was. That's what it was. So then we went through this really radical transformation or like time. And it felt like culture shock. So basically we went from not earning money to then we started a business that did really work, which is Plexus. And we started earning more and more money. And then we went through a year and a half of almost like chasing happiness. So like eating out more.
Okay.
And
spending money,
essentially spending money. Like I remember the first time I went into a shoe store with my kids and there was a big like box full of balls, like those big inflatable balls. And one of my kids said, "Can I have a ball?" And I was like, "Absolutely you can." Because I was like, I have $5. I have $5 now. But it kind of turned into this looking for happiness in like, okay, we have the money. Now we can spend the money and now the money will bring us happiness. And that's what I mean by saying like it was accidental turned intentional. Because
you felt like you were chasing it and realizing it wasn't really bringing what you felt like it would bring.
Yep.
So that kind of hearing about the child and wanting the toy and all of that, do you feel like, how do your kids feel about it? Are they all on board? Do they kind of know, oh, we don't have extra stuff? Or is there conversations around that? How does that work?
That's such a big question.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Let's see if I can dial it
down.
Okay.
So when we're at the store now, basically the answer is no. Okay. Like I would say most of the time, because then we got into this habit of like
you're just at Target and they're like, "Oh, Mom." Yeah.
Yes. And then they would bring the car home. Like one of our boys would bring the car home and then they would literally be fighting over it or mad or not playing with it
or not
within 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember my mom telling me early on, I've always tried to say no at the store. I would take note of what it was and keep kind of a running list for a birthday or something like that. But I remember my mom telling me when my kids were little, look for ways to say no to your kids. Like look for ways to say no, and just that it would bring about gratitude or it would help with self-control and just kind of that response where you need immediate gratification, and I definitely see benefits of minimalism because and then I remember a pastor actually, Elizabeth James, her dad was our pastor growing up. And he said, look for ways to tell yourself no every day. And that's I think I was probably 12 when I heard him say that, at big church. But it's something I've remembered my whole life, like just whether it's with food or with, a purchase online or doing something like, is there a way you can tell yourself no and just kind of teaching yourself, not to be reliant on that immediate gratification of the yes. So I think you're instilling really beautiful things in your kids through it. Are there any just kind of challenges or obstacles that when you've got a bunch of kids and you're doing minimalism? Okay, well, so even you kind of went through the culture shock of, all of a sudden having a lot more income than you were used to. And you had, I don't know, did you have all 7 kids in your old house or were there just the 6?
We did briefly. We did have 7 kids and 1,500 square feet with 3 bedrooms total.
Yes. That was how I started following you on Instagram. And she was always doing really cute home makeovers and decorating the spaces. And she would be able to completely change a whole room by painting it and doing cute, things on the walls or bedding or things like that. And so even though it was minimalist, it did seem really warm in your house. Like it felt very family friendly. It wasn't like, I think when I hear the word minimalist, I think cold. I think no cozy blankets or like nothing on the throw pillow. Some of the things that just kind of make your home a home. And I did not ever feel that way but it was just very orderly and intentional, like you're saying. But do you run into challenges like, well, this can be hard about minimalism?
Like in the winter, we get a lot of snow and I still have not figured out a way for 7 kids to go outside with snowsuits, snow coats, mittens, hats, scarves, boots, and socks.
Oh my gosh.
I have not figured it out.
I haven't figured that out. Yeah, that would be an obstacle. Yeah,
Right.
and then they're all going to want to come in for a cup of hot chocolate. Do they each have their own cup?
It's a total mess. I think that over the past like even 6 months to a year, I've kind of gone from minimalist to like clutter free.
Oh, okay.
Because like, for example,
that makes sense.
I'm obsessed with fall. So I literally just went on Amazon and bought 5-foot and 6-foot lighted autumn trees.
Well, that's cozy.
That are in my basement. And so people were like, hey, you say you're clutter free, like you've got this autumn stuff. And I'm like, but none of it is clutter to me because I'm using all of it. I love all of it. Like it's not just sitting around gathering dust. That's what clutter is to me. And that brings anxiety and chaos and overwhelm. And I hate that.
I totally agree with that. I will say we moved into a home a couple years ago with a lot more space. We like doubled our square footage. And when I had lived in, especially when we were renting and we were moving a lot with in a past life, then there wasn't room for everything. And yes, when you can't find anything and you open up all the drawers and all that, 100%. But there is something about when everything has a place and it sits in there. And then it's like, oh, I am going to use this. This is here if I need it. But yes, I totally agree. When even Walker right now my baby, he has kind of infant toys and toddler toys, and I need to go through and get out. I get in there with his little toy area. I'm like, they can't even use it. And it does. It makes you feel crazy. You are in there like, oh my gosh, even something small like that. Okay, tell me when it is it's probably always someone's birthday in your house. So do y'all have rules around that? Do y'all have, as far as bringing more things in, or is that just kind of different seasons, or what does that look like?
Okay, so you have the same issue at Christmas too. Like,
yes.
It's crazy. And actually we ended up getting rid of most of the kids' toys after a Christmas. So let me briefly mention that, and then I'll get into birthdays. So we start making more money, and then it's Christmas, and I love Christmas. And I was like, my thing is making my kids happy. I want my children to be happy. And so we bought them so many toys, and then they were buying each other toys. And we did Christmas in the morning, and by 11 a.m., literally, they were unhappy, and they were fighting over the same stupid stuff. And Matt looked at me. This is like 2017 or 2018. Matt looks at me and he was like, I'm done. Like, I literally want to pack it up and get rid of it. And we literally just gave it to them. And I think that was kind of the turning point where we were like, okay, what actually makes our kids happy? Is it actually more stuff? So anyways, what we do now for birthdays is like this past birthday, Rachel turned 13. And so Matt said to her, let's fly somewhere. We had like flyer miles and Matt was like, let's go somewhere. So she wanted to go to Florida. Matt flew her to Florida, and they literally stayed at the Gaylord Palms for 3 days and just chilled out. You know what I mean?
So fun. So experiences. You realize that those are important to them. And so they kind of have a fun day. And 13's a big birthday. So that is, okay. And then another thing I know you talk about on just your social media is like the capsule wardrobes. Did you kind of figure that? I mean, was that from necessity or minimalism? I mean, that always would stress me out, like the changing of the seasons, even just having 3 kids all year round, and then all of a sudden nothing fits anyone. So tell me, I know you kind of have some methods to your madness there. What does that look like?
It's so stressful. And I used to have like the totes. And then like we had all these totes.
Like the Rubbermaid things?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And I was just done with it. I was over it. And I was like, I love shopping for kids' clothes. I love them to look super trendy. But how do I do it without like all the stress and overwhelm? And so I just started like figuring out ways to not have a ton of clothes, but they could be mixed and matched, that they still looked super cute and there were still lots of options. Without the other thing that's frustrating is you're like, kids, it's time to go. And the kid comes down the stairs with like a shirt that has like Mickey Mouse, with like orange shorts and like rubber boots. But I was like, if I kind of create these wardrobes for them, then literally no matter what Jack grabs, it will go together.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. No, that's a shirt you never ever wear out of. That's a play clothes. And then for me, your pictures end up with them in, like inevitably somehow you have this great family moment and they're in the thing and you're like, dang it.
I know.
How did that make it out of the drawer?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yes. Okay. So when you're saying you used to have those totes, now do you recycle at do you don't do hand-me-downs with all the kiddos?
Okay. So Rachel and Jemima wear the same size. When they're done with clothes, they pass it down to Caroline, who's the next size. Okay. Then when she's done, then she passes it down to Eleanor, who's the next size. And then at that point, it either goes to a little cousin or I sell it.
Okay.
And then with Matthias, I sell his stuff.
Okay.
Because there's just no point, when there's a big age gap or something. And I honestly love buying the stuff.
Yeah.
So why would I want to and I think because of my system, I'm able to economically create them a very cute wardrobe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you're saying you sell it, are you putting that on like Facebook Marketplace, Mercari, eBay? What are you doing? I feel like anytime I try to do that, it does not get I'm like, is this even worth my time? So do you have a secret there? Or what does that look like?
No, I don't really have a secret. I tried to sell it Once Upon a Child, which is our
kind of website.
No, it's an actual chain like across the US that sells kids clothes. So I'll sell there. And then what does not sell, literally we immediately take it to Goodwill.
Yeah.
Because I do not want to bring anything back. Nothing back.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely not. Okay. Have you ever in your minimalism journey, gone, okay, I think I've taken it too far and then had to come back? Like gotten rid of too much or said, maybe we don't need this. And then maybe you and Matt kind of look at each other and go, maybe that was too much.
Okay, the only thing I can remember is that one Sunday afternoon, Matt was like, let's go hiking. And I'm like, I don't have shorts or hiking shoes. That was like the height of it.
Are y'all hikers?
No, but we were just going to go to a state park and hang out. And I didn't have anything.
You literally, Eric, I have absolutely nothing to go with here.
Right.
Okay. Well, yeah, that would be that would create a problem. Right. Where else does minimalism bleed in for you? Is it just your stuff, or do you notice it with your time, or just other where do you kind of see it in other areas?
Everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It is absolutely everywhere. So I tell people I'm in an extremely busy season. And so I have to make every single area of my life as simple as possible. Mm-hmm. Our homeschooling is some people would probably be like, you're not actually even real homeschoolers. But I go through math and language and history, and I make things as easy and simple with as few workbooks as possible, right? Mm-hmm. So they know exactly what to do. It's online or whatever. Cooking, I do very, very, very simple meals. Mm-hmm. I was raised with every single meal is a fruit and a carb and an egg. And you know what I mean?
Yes.
Where we'll just do just so simple, but it's every single area, I think.
So yes. Okay. What about, or do your kids do activities? As far as I'm thinking time was, I guess, one for your, because that just feels like something, for me, and again, only 3 of my kids have activities, but it feels like there is an activity every day. So I'm just wondering, does that feel is that an area? And did y'all move? When y'all moved, did you move to a whole new town, or did you?
We kind of moved to in the middle of nowhere. It's it's 5 minutes from a state park. Okay. It is lots and lots of interstate to get to anything. And so the kids they're not in anything right now. Last night I was like, oh my goodness, should they be doing something? They go to Wednesday night at church. Yes. They do that kind of stuff.
Great.
They hang out with, cousins and friends. We've got a play date this week, but there's no structured activity right now. And that's another thing people
love that.
ask is like, do your kids want to? And I said, if they asked, we would absolutely be like, let's do it. But right now, just with the ages and everything, like during the summer, all they want to do is play in the creek, go swimming, and bike ride. Like that's it.
I mean, isn't that what our whole generation, that's what we didn't grow up. I grew up playing in creeks, that we lived out in the country and being gone all day. My mom not really knowing where we were. And we'd come back and I love that. I think that's darling. And not that this matters at all, but I've met your big girls on trips, and they are, I mean, great little conversationalist and just fun to be around and darling. And so I feel like that's such a misconception about homeschooled kiddos, is that, do they not need to be like in society around all these people? And I grew up homeschooling for a few years, and I grew up around a lot of homeschoolers, and I just don't remember that being an issue. I'm more worried about what they're subjected to at school than I am that they're going to not be able to enter into the crazy from being around their family too much. But I've loved getting to meet your kiddos, and I feel like they're just darling and really sweet. Okay. Well then, what if someone was like, okay, I liked that you said, what would you kind of maybe define terms there? We were like, I don't know that would say I'm a minimalist or identify as a minimalist anymore, but more clutter free. Kind of how would you kind of split those up?
Okay. So I think minimalists really, really like empty rooms. They like empty
that's
rooms,
why I feel
and they
like
like
it
as little
cold.
as possible.
Yes.
It does feel a little bit cold to me.
Okay.
And especially like in the seasons and stuff, I like lots of trees and lots of lights and like lots. So there are certain areas of my life that are not minimalist at all. We have a lot of books.
Okay.
We have a lot of stored food, which is crazy. But in 2020, my husband was like, we will have all the stored food.
Okay.
So we have lots of stored food.
There's a lot of kids over there. Yeah, I don't blame him.
Like there are certain things that we have more of. But again, it's things that we are all using or planning to use.
Okay.
But I do feel like minimalists are more like into empty rooms, where I am more into like, I look for anything that we're not using that. So, okay, this is the way I think about it.
Okay.
I am very comfortable throwing things away. If this is not serving me, like I'm literally looking at this piece of trash on my husband's desk. I'm like, what is this doing here? If it is just like, I'm very comfortable throwing things away. Like even if like a shirt has a rip in it, or like something that's out of style, or like I just have zero qualms getting rid of stuff.
I'm so with you, Tricia. I'm so with you. I've moved so many times. I'm like, I don't want to have to pack that away or repack it or find a place for it. I would rather just get rid of it.
I know.
Yeah. I was laughing. I'd listened to you on another podcast somewhere. You were talking about the things that, like at church, where they give your kid all the little, you start coming home. I would throw those things away before we walked out the door.
100%. They're gone.
It's going to be in my car for a week. Like, that is so sweet. I'm so glad you did that activity. I don't ever need to see that again.
Right.
Honestly, now at this point in my life, I'm like, gosh, I should have saved some of those Christmas ornaments and things they made. Because now I'm like, that would be a sweet little tree to have. I'm not super sentimental. And so I have a gazillion pictures, and there is something about their little outfits. Like I remember them in that outfit at doing a certain memory, but we passed them down to our cousins. So it just kind of is a sweet thing that lives on, but that's really it. Other than that, I just don't have an attachment to things. And so I think it brings peace to walk in your space. And I think about that even with like homemaking and like it just having peace and order in your house. It's not like a self-righteous thing. It's just, I can't think when there's stuff everywhere, and it gives me anxiety. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to be picking this up. I don't need to be doing another task. I just need to be cleaning this up, and I can't really make progress in my life. So I just think it brings peace. So I think I can get on board more with the clutter free than the minimalist. I think there's something in me too that like I love knowing there's I don't know what this says about me. Like a cupboard full of paper towels or toilet paper, like those kinds of things, like that I know, or like your pantry being full stock. That just makes me feel it's probably some kind of security thing. It's more those kinds of things than all the Christmas decorations or all the clothes and all the things. I think anyway, have you ever read the book Seven by Jen Hatmaker? Yeah.
No.
Have you ever read it?
No.
I read it, when I was living in Pennsylvania years and years ago, and she kind of did this experiment. It was a book, and the way that she did it, she took each month, she had a different topic. And so she called it like this experiment. And for 1 month, it was clothing. And she would only wear 7 items of clothing. And so she just kept them on. And down to the undies, like the whole thing. Like she was so particular on these 7 things. And then there was another month where it was food. And so she only ate 7 foods. There was 1 month where she only did like 7, shopped at 7 stores. And I can't really remember it all now, but I remember in my Enneagram 7, let's try everything self, I did it for a week for each of them. I was like, hey, I'm going to do for a week each one. But it really kind of was a form of just decluttering your life. And it kind of took a lot of decision making out of your day, because you didn't have to worry about what you were eating that day. There were only 7 things, or getting dressed. It was so simple. And just things like that. It pared down a lot of the decision making, which again led to peace. So anyway, it might be a book you might like. It was just an easy read. I don't know if you know her. She's kind of a blogger and speaker, and she used to write Bible studies and things, but I do remember that book, and it kind of reminds me about some of the things.
That reminds me of 2 different things. The first thing is that, again, back to when we had so little money, I thought to myself, I want to look very nice, but we don't have hardly any money, but I want to wear something that I feel really, really good in. So I went to TJ Maxx. Actually, I had 2 shirts. One was from Goodwill and one was from TJ Maxx, and they fitted beautifully. It was winter. One was like maroon, long sleeve, and one was black. And I wore them every single day, all winter long. Just 2 shirts. But every time I put it on, it fit perfectly.
You felt confident.
And I felt confident.
You felt
and I was fine.
Yeah. I love that.
The second thing is that I went up to Caroline in Eleanor's room. Caroline is 8. And I was like, she has a lot of summer dresses. So I'm like, I'm going to clear out half of them, and I'm going to go sell them to make room for like her back to school stuff that's going to be coming in, right? So she was gone, and I cleared out half of them, and we were getting in the car, and I was going to go sell them. And I said to her, I cleared out half of your dresses. And she was like, okay, cool. She was like, did you leave that one? And she described it. And I said, yes. And she's like, okay. And she wore that one on Sunday. And I was like, I said, so then, a couple of weeks go by, and I'm like, do you miss those dresses, or like, do you mind? And she's like, no, like they don't even care. It's like, it's so much easier for them to come in on Sunday morning and say, oh, here are my 4 choices. I'm going to grab this choice. My favorite one's right there. I want to wear my favorite one anyways.
I love that. And I also love that when you're talking, I think it takes the weight and the kind of upset with things away, like that it's not the stuff, and it makes them go, well, I mean, that's just stuff. Oh yeah, I had that dress for a little while. It's fine. Like I like everything you're saying. What would you say if you were kind of thinking, okay, I want to kind of move in this direction, but I don't think my spouse is going to be on board? Like, was it something that you and Matt kind of came? Well, it sounds like it was like kind of a conclusion together, but would you, maybe any kind of start small tips or anything like that on some ways to kind of start practicing this, or start maybe some things that you're like, this is one of the first things that I realized I had so much of, or anything that kind of comes to mind when you hear that?
Well, you can't control your spouse.
Yeah.
You can't really touch their stuff. Like, I don't even go into the garage,
touch their
right?
stuff.
So like, but Matt doesn't care what I do with the kids' clothes. He literally could care less, right?
Okay.
So like, I would say start with you, start with your stuff.
Good point. Yeah.
Don't nag, right? And start with the areas of your home. And I'm sure it will take you plenty of time to go with your own stuff without even worrying.
Really good advice. That is Just start with you. Just start with you. That was funny. That's good advice. Yes, you and the kids should help a lot. Should take you a hot minute. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a good word. That's a good word. Okay. Well, for someone, let's say they were thinking that they wanted to get started in that. Do you have any kind of first steps or encouragement or anything? Just kind of as we wrap up, just kind of thoughts for that. If someone was getting started,
I would say
besides
stop
following your
buying so
Instagram.
much stuff.
Stop buying so much stuff. Yeah, that's
Like
a good one.
until you can get what you have in your home under control, you have got to stop buying stuff. So here's what I think about like the lifespan of a purchase. So it is very exciting to see something on a shelf. It is very exciting to put it in your cart. It is very exciting to check out. From then on, it is no longer exciting. Then you have to put it in a bag, put it in your car, drive it home, unpack it, figure out where you're going to put it. And so often these purchases that we get so excited about, like even a new dress, new shoes, new decor, like whatever it is, it sits in that bag stuffed somewhere. So I would just say figure out why are you doing this? Like you obviously have to figure out the why, right? And then what is actually going to make you happy? And then try to get what's in your home under control before you bring more stuff in.
That's a good word. Tricia, this was so helpful. I loved this conversation. I think you're so fun. And this was such great, just practical wisdom. And people can find you. Remind me, I want to say your Instagram name. It'll be in the show notes, but where can they follow you on Instagram?
Clean House with Kids.
Clean House with Kids. So cute. And she has tips and reels and all kinds of things on there every day. Y'all should follow her because she's just delightful and more just practical wisdom there. So Tricia, thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
You just finished another episode of Wide Open Spaces. My hope is always that you felt encouraged as you listened. And if you found this valuable, will you share it with a friend today? Tag me if you do. I always love seeing your favorite takeaways. I'm so glad you were here, and I'll see you back next week. Same time, same place. See you then.